Good afternoon. I'm Eula Clark, Mayor of the City of Stuart, calling to order the Stuart Community Redevelopment Agency meeting today, August 23rd. Are we at 4:30 or 5?
4:30.
Oh, sorry, this is 5. At 4:30 p.m. At the Stuart City Commission, 121 Southwest Flagler Avenue. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Chairperson Clark,
Yes?
Vice Chairperson Matheson,
Here.
Board Member Bruner,
Here.
Board Member McDonald,
Here.
Board Member Meyer,
Here.
Board Member Campenny,
Here.
and Board Member Wilson.
Clerk, do we have a quorum for today's meeting of the CRA?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Let us all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. As we pledge allegiance, let us give thanks for our two re-elected commissioners. Let us have the Pledge of Allegiance led by our Vice Mayor, Merritt Matheson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have an agenda that has been published. What's the pleasure of this board?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Madam
We
Mayor,
have minutes from the,
Madam Mayor, there's a question from the clerk.
I was,
oh yes, okay, right after the approval of the agenda, before we go on to the minutes, because we have to have this board approve everything, we have two newly elected members of the board, and we'd like to swear them in at this time. Mr. City Attorney, we have Board Member Bruner and Board Member McDonald. We're starting off a new term of office.
Board member and commissioner, Bruner, would you please raise your right hand? Would you like to repeat after me, or would you like to just say yes?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support, honor, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida, and that you are duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state of Florida and under the Charter of the City of Stuart, and that you will well and faithfully perform the duties of City of Stuart Commissioner, on which you are now about to enter, so help you God?
I do, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you could please sign this.
Thank you, madam.
Commissioner McDonald, would you like to repeat after me or just say yes, your choice?
Repeat after you.
Okay. I do solemnly swear that I will support, honor, protect, and defend.
I do honorably swear and support.
I do solemnly
Do
swear
solemnly swear,
that I will support, honor, protect,
support, honor, and protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of
and
Florida.
the state of Florida.
That I am duly qualified
I am duly qualified
to hold office under the Constitution
to hold office under the Constitution
of the state of Florida
of the state of Florida
and under the Charter
and under the Charter
of the City of Stuart.
of the City of Stuart.
And that I will well and faithfully
And I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of City of Stuart
perform the duties of City of Stuart
Commissioner,
Commissioner,
on which I am now
on which I am now
about to enter,
about to enter,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations to you as well.
Congratulations to you both.
Good practice, Troy, for when Portia comes at 5:30.
Exactly.
That's right. This will be more formal then.
You see, I needed a practice run.
It's easier when you have it in front of you, though.
So now we have the approval of the minutes from May 24th CRA meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by, moved by Board Member Campenny, seconded by Commissioner McDonald. Are we gonna just have a general all in favor, or do you need, to call the roll?
All in favor is fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I hear no opposition. The minutes have been approved. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment? There's a 3-minute comment. Is there any, are we doing Zoom today, Mr. Paul? Yes. Okay. All right. Any comments from board members?
No comments. No comments.
Any comments from the, okay. All right, so now we'll have our meeting. Staff, could you please present on item number 2, the proposed Triangle District Master Plan,
Thank you. Yes,
and introduce our Regional Planning Council staff? Thank you.
yes. Panal Gandhi Savdas, CRA Administrator for the record. As you know, that the CRA contracted with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to prepare the Triangle District Study. This area, here's a map showing the area of study. It's surrounded by South Dixie Highway to the northeast, Federal Highway to the west, and Ocean Boulevard to the south. This is a mixed-use area. It has offices, automotive uses, AT&T building, church with school, and recently the city-owned parcel was redeveloped with the Azul housing, multi-family housing project on the city-owned property. There is a lack of infrastructure to encourage walking in this neighborhood, and that's why I was really interested in doing this master plan. So Jessica Seymour is here from Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to present the study and findings. She's going to provide details about the existing conditions, what type of improvements are needed in this area, the public survey that was conducted, and just how we can encourage redevelopment in this area. So I'll let Jessica take over from here.
Hello, good afternoon, board members and commissioners. Jessica Seymour from Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, again for the record.
Is that microphone working? I can't really hear.
I
Want to just move it closer to you?
yeah, there we go. I think it is on. I just need to talk louder through my mask. Anywho, so the Triangle District Master Plan. We'll touch upon the name of this study area, but just as part of the survey results. But just so you know, we'll keep calling it the Triangle District. This is not on.
We're having problems today.
All right, so you guys already know that this was part of basically a 2-chapter master plan study to fill in some gaps where we needed a master plan in the city of Stewart. So this is the second chapter to that plan with the Triangle District. The first chapter was the US 1 corridor study area. Hey. So Pinal already did an excellent job describing the area. That's our study area. And then that other study area that the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council looked at was the US 1 corridor. And that was funded in part by a DEO grant. Where we are today, you'll see the 2 lines of the 2 master plans. And we're inching our way to the final report now, and this is a part of that process. So the US 1 wrapped up in June, and we are here to present the Triangle Master Plan today. Going back in time, you all recall the vision workshop, the walking tour we conducted that touched upon both a little bit of the US 1 study area and the Triangle District. We had over 50 participants. It was a really fun and successful day of input. And then we also conducted the community survey back in December. And again, another really great piece of feedback from residents and those who work in and live in the city and just outside. We also conducted individual interviews with business owners, stakeholders, the board, anybody who wanted to talk to us. Well, I'm going to touch upon some of those important survey questions and the responses that we got. The key question that I'm bringing up here is, what words or themes did you feel resonated with the district? And again, this was a question that we included on the community survey. This is important because we felt that this district that we're calling the Triangle District needed a name, something identifiable, since it doesn't have any landmarks in it. And all around it are identifiable places like downtown, the old downtown district, the Creek Arts and Entertainment District, Shepherd's Park, Sunset Marina and Anchorage. So what's this middle space? What's the center of the donut? And by and far, the biggest feedback we got on that question was Triangle District. So that's, going forward, they're going to call the study area here for purpose of clarity, the Triangle District, and it is one of our recommendations that the district gets a name so that this can carry forward. We also asked about what the strengths are of the area. Again, in the word cloud, the bigger the word, the more people use that in an open-ended response. So it's a quick visual way so we can see what are those buzzwords that talk about this district. Downtown is clearly the largest, and you can see the words that connect it to downtown. So more and more this establishes the fact that the Triangle District is an extension of the downtown fabric. We also asked about uses that were appropriate and desirable in this district. The top one was the restaurants, with 53% of people ranking that as the number one use that they would like to see in this district. And that's another point in the characterization of this area as an extension of the walkable, compact neighborhood that is the old downtown district. Because when we asked the participants in that community survey, what was your number one thing you go to downtown for? And it was restaurants. So it just, again, that character. We also got a lot of responses for other. So we wanted to dive into that with a word cloud analysis too. You see big park area, space, green, outdoor, recreation. And that's a really, everybody wants green space, open space, but it's also another key factor that in green civic space, in hand with that urban walkable network, is really important, and it's lacking in this district. So you'll see that reflected in the overall master plan. We did an analysis of the existing conditions with site visits. We mapped out some of the historic fabric that we believe is assets in this neighborhood, and we need to understand where those are and how they can be protected. We also looked at the circulation patterns there, both vehicular and pedestrian. As Pinal mentioned, it was already noted that this area lacks in some of the necessary infrastructure for walkability and activation as a mixed-use neighborhood. And we noted that there are several one-way streets, Akron in particular switches halfway. And they're also pointing you away from some of your major destinations in downtown. So most people are trying to get to and from Old Downtown District, or Southeast Ocean Boulevard. Those are really common routes. And the Triangle District is pushing you away from them. So we highly recommend that these roads return to two-way traffic, not just for vehicular traffic, to make that an easier, simpler circulation, but when somebody goes through an area for the first time, it's often by car, and they're much more likely to return as a bicyclist or a walker if they understand the area and they understand how to get around and how it's connected. We also did an updated survey of the available parking that's out there today. The parking survey that was completed in 2018 still has many valuable recommendations and information. We wanted to analyze if there was anything that was different since that survey or that study had been completed. We did find that there were some changes because of Azul, but of note, there's 195 on-street parking spaces in the Triangle District, and then 83 on the parking spaces are on the surface lots. There's 235 commercial parking spaces. What this told us is that despite a lot of conversation about the need for parking, there are a lot of opportunities for parking in the Triangle District, and that a district-wide parking approach is something that should be looked at for the Triangle District and more of the urban districts adjacent to downtown. And I'll go through the steps of what that means. First, assess the parking code. You've got a parking code today. You want to understand, is it the carrot and sticks that you want in your downtown? So, for example, you may want to look at how a Park Once environment is impacting this area. When you go to downtown, old downtown today, if you're going to Kilwin's for ice cream, you're going to go 2 doors down and do the retail shopping there. You don't need individual parking for both of those spaces. So for that reason, you can have a different parking code than that's something that's out on US 1 or further away where it's a single point parking. So there's more shared parking for those who are driving. You're also closer to places where people can live and work, and so you don't need to provide as much parking. So there might be opportunities to shave down some of the parking requirements to a more Park Once environment, and then also looking at what uses are driving the parking requirement by code, which some of those uses may be higher than what you really intended them to be. And then phase 2, which is really the bulk of where our recommendations come from, which is about completing streets, making them walkable, making the on-the-ground infrastructure an attractive place where you want to be, where you want to walk, where it's easy to walk. And again, it just supports that redevelopment and the Park Once environment. So going through some of those existing conditions where we saw there was a lack of walkability, this is a map that indicates where we have shade trees adjacent to rights-of-way. You can see there's a lot of gaps, so not a lot of shade out here. Here's some images of where that's happening. Property sales there is actually casting a nice shadow at this time of day, but you've got some really barren spaces in the Triangle District as far as landscaping, greenery, and shade. And this goes back to the comments that we got about the need for green in a district like this. This is an example from West Palm Beach. If you note, you're immediately, you can see the difference in the two streets. But when you look at the ground, there's actually not that much different between the two street sections. They both have on-street parking. They both are 2-lane roads. They both have 5 or 6 foot sidewalks with a 5 or 6 foot green space between curb and sidewalk. They're the exact same street section. What's different is the trees. So it really goes to show the impact that trees have for your property value, your quality of life, the how pleasurable it is to walk on that street.
Are those oak trees?
Those are oak trees, yes. I believe they are. I can verify, but I'm almost certain they are. We also took a detailed look at where we had missing sidewalks and where we had missing crosswalks. So the red indicates where there's a missing crosswalk or a missing sidewalk. There are actually a good deal of sidewalks out there. They're not very big. They're interrupted by a lot of utility poles, but they're out there. But you can see that where one is indicating, these pictures here, there's a couple that are really important. So if you're walking to downtown, old downtown, or if you're walking along Dixie, you can't get where you're going safely or feel safe at least while you're getting there. There's a lot of blind turns as you come around those corners back onto Dixie. And then you'll see in the pictures too how the utility poles interrupt. A lot of the sidewalk here is only about 5 feet wide, so when you have a 1 foot pole coming in from FPL or another utility, it makes a significant drop in the accessibility of that sidewalk. And then these other phases, we call them, to the district to parking approach, looking at where you can make activate commercial parking through more hours of the day. You know, an office building that has people there during the day doesn't do any good in the evening when nobody is in the office, but now your restaurants are busting at the seam. There's a lot of really good use of that already happening with some of the valet parking and some lease agreements that are out there, but that can be expanded. Again, there's 235 parking spaces out there in towaway or private parking lots. And so those could be activated at a much lower threshold of investment by the city than doing another large-scale parking lot or anything like a municipal garage. So that's an avenue that you look at before you look at those others. Phase 4, here we go, is looking at metered parking. Parking isn't free. Not all parking spaces are created equal. And again, we're not there in the city of Stewart, and the Triangle District is not there now. But at some point in the future, it may make sense for there to be some metered parking spaces. And then once all these phases are looked through, we recommend that you analyze whether or not the parking needs are actually being met. If they're still unmet, then there can be the planning and the consideration for structured parking. Or if there's large-scale development, there can be leverage and partnership with that for how you can get more municipal shared use parking into that development scheme. But there's always a lot of talk about parking, so we thought it was a very useful exercise to lay out the many steps that you would go through prior to looking at a structured parking solution. Now, this is the fun stuff for us. This is the tour of the plan. These are the recommendations. We created a detailed map of the Triangle District. These plans here where you see the pink and the green and the colors, those are where we are laying out recommended improvements to the street infrastructure and some potential development and redevelopment schemes in the future. I'll point out, we identify a couple of important public open space opportunities, either in conjunction with redevelopment or as part of city projects. And then we also identified typical sections to describe the kinds of improvements that are recommended for the streets. So this is Albany. This is the existing conditions out there today. Again, sidewalks on two sides, which is great, but we've lost some delineation of where the sidewalk is. And so this is the improved condition. We illustrate undergrounding FPL poles so that that sidewalk can be opened up. We illustrate pedestrian lighting. Again, we don't want to add more poles to the context if we can't get rid of a few. So undergrounding that FPL allows us an opportunity to add pedestrian lighting. To go back to the survey, one of the really interesting things that I found when reading the responses that we got from the Triangle survey, as a Stewart resident who's lived here my whole life, I feel very safe everywhere in the city of Stewart. But not everybody has had that same opportunity. And a lot of people responded that they don't feel safe walking around this area because there's not a lot of eyes on the street and it's really dark. So pedestrian lighting is really important. If I want to open up a restaurant or a retail store, these things are really important infrastructure on the street to help expand the walkability. On-street parking, this is a 40-foot right-of-way, so there's not a lot of space with the budget of right-of-way. So we have on-street parking on one side. And there could be opportunities working with private property owners to put in some landscape buffers at the parking lots that exist today. What's illustrated there is just a 4-foot hedge being added, which mirrors what's similar across the street. And then in all of the recommendations, the Triangle District doesn't include any existing stormwater infrastructure. There's no gutters, with the exception of what happened at Azul. The city did an excellent job of adding all that stormwater infrastructure when there was an opportunity with redevelopment, and we just are recommending to expand that in all these streets and to add, whenever there's on-street parking, to use the pervious materials, either pavers or pavement. California, I'm going to go a little bit faster through these, but if anybody wants to stop me, please do so. California, this is an existing street. Right now, it's a one-way street with a 30-foot travel lane. That's really wide. Again, I think it's a function of maybe some of the uses that are out there today and a desire for one-way traffic to provide a safe or safer crosswalk between the church properties. But there's other ways of achieving that and still allowing two-way traffic. And this shows a redevelopment opportunity where there's green today and curbless design, returning the two-way traffic, keeping on-street parking and adding some to the other side, pedestrian lighting, and again, where you can partner with putting it onto the private property so that that sidewalk can maintain a clear width, and enhanced mid-block crossings. And we talk about enhanced mid-block crossings. We want lights, pedestrian signs, an added texture or paver. These are, we have a beautiful example actually of this in front of Memorial Park. FDOT actually points to it all the time in their presentations because it's such a nice example of a mid-block crossing that's been enhanced with safety features. So we want to do more of that. Dixie Highway, this is where we noted that there's some missing sidewalks. So you see that poor woman standing in the asphalt. That's where I was riding my bike earlier. That's not the best we can do. And so there's the after condition. Again, a couple of key enhanced mid-block crossings to provide that extension back to downtown. It's really important that you can walk from the Triangle District to downtown. Adding a sidewalk. This is a repeated recommendation from the parking survey. If you go back, there's no sidewalk that you can get on, walk to once you've parked. So we need to add that sidewalk in, similar to what was happened with Azul. Added on-street parking on these interior streets, that's California. And again, with the pedestrian lighting, delineating where the sidewalks are and providing more light. Ocean Boulevard. Ocean Boulevard's actually, again, doing pretty great. We've got on-street parking on both sides. It's often empty. It's not well delineated. Part of that is just because the lines have gotten light over the years. But we also recommend that there's some landscaped bulb outs. There's some opportunities to delineate where that's on-street parking is happening, creating a bookend, adding green to the neighborhood, curb extensions at some of the alleyways, combining driveways where there's opportunities. There's a few opportunities for that out there today. Pedestrian lighting. And then this side right here, we also got an opportunity to show on that, what today is the green playground field. What can happen when you require a widened sidewalk with redevelopment. So that's really can become a very nice activated street with ample room for cafe seating and walking. We identified a couple of other CRA projects or city projects that can be adopted. One of which is, this is a really important vista in our city, looking back at our beautiful mural and the really nice roundabout that we have there. But if you notice, we're missing half the mural. So we think that should be finished off. And then while we're at it, let's look at all sides of that AT&T building. It's not going anywhere, so we need to find a way to stitch it into a fabric of a neighborhood that's vibrant and activated. So we illustrated what can happen when that alley could become an artist's gallery of sorts, an open gallery with a mid-block crossing on Joan Jefferson Way, again enhanced so that it does a lot for slowing the traffic and provides a safe walkway away from US 1 a little bit, and completing the mural all the way around that building. And then that's an opportunity for any uses that are adjacent to that to build off of that placemaking. And here's a redevelopment concept. This is just overlaid over what's today is the church property. This is to give an illustration of the kind of scale you could add to the neighborhood if there are redevelopment opportunities. Also of note is we've kept all the existing rights-of-way. Those existing rights-of-way are really important for creating that network of walkable streets and commercial opportunities. And when you add housing back into the neighborhood, the ability to park in the rear. All those alleys are what's providing you that opportunity to have a beautiful front and a functioning alley in the back. For those of you who went on the walking tour and are really familiar with the area, you know what that does for Camden, the location where our offices are. Having that alley means that all the trash pickup and additional parking, all is functioned off of that alleyway system, and it really opens up the front for greenery and activation by those of us walking and parking. All right. Going back out, so we looked all into the interior and of the Triangle District and the face that faces downtown. Zooming back out to US 1, we also identified a couple of opportunities for, Fraser Creek Bridge will be replaced someday, and when it does, we want to look at how it can become a celebration of the waterways that we are trying to protect. So adding a little bit of a hump so that water continues to be navigable by small craft and kayakers, adding lights, texture. Again, it's an asset. We celebrate our waterways here. So when we go over it, it's an opportunity to point to it and let everyone know that they're crossing water. It also acts as a way to help slow down traffic. The speed limit here is actually 35 miles per hour, so just something to note. Again, to that point, increasing the safety. US 1, this is the intersection where it's the most important to get that pedestrian traffic and improve the safety. US 1 is where we have accidents. It's where we've had some fatalities over the years. So enhancing and really investing in the intersection at Ocean Boulevard is an important factor. And then also as an asset as to why Ocean is important, we've got Shepherd's Park, and we also have city-owned property there. And so here's an example of how the city can use that city-owned property to help identify the city with architecture, a civic or an active use that really announces that you're in the city of Stewart. And then we also illustrated here and in a couple of other areas for the plan where landscaping can come back into US 1 and we can add some shade trees. These are some really famous images to really local images of what happens when you really invest in tree infrastructure. You maintain it, you keep it, and you allow it to mature. Of course, in Paris, they've been doing it for a long time. We have Bridge Road and as a local example. And then I also included this example from South Miami Avenue in Miami, where they have Royal Poincianas and palms in the center median there. And it's a real opportunity to announce where you're at, especially when you have some consistency in what tree species is out there. And to that point, the CRA is already looking, I think you've seen it in the proposed budget, on doing a tree program for US 1. So we're really excited about how we can help implement something that will be really memorable for the city. And so, implementation. Whew. Sorry, I'm going to take a breath. Okay. We outlined in near term, midterm, and long term, and in some cases very ambitiously, how we can get this to be a reality, both in CRA projects and public-private partnerships. In those 2 pages, with the big takeaway, the big 4 recommendations that I can leave you with today, to name the area, improve the walkability and streets inside and around the Triangle District by designing, funding, and building within the city's rights-of-way, provide grant opportunities for improvement which benefit both property owners and the streetscape. The tree program is an example of how that could be implemented too, under that bullet point. Advocating for specific projects with coordination from FDOT and Martin MPO. Large-scale projects like the Fraser Creek Bridge need that coordination with our partners at MPO and the long-range transportation plans. And promote a district-wide parking approach to the code and incentive programs, and continue to protect and recognize the historic assets in the district. Today, the recommended action is we're asking for any feedback on the master plan and to direct staff to return with a resolution to adopt the master plan and to name the study area as Triangle District. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. I was gonna ask you about the width of that, the sidewalk with the trees, that's within the same layout that we have now.
So for US 1 you're referring to? Not it, no. In US 1, we have a real constrained right-of-way. So in order to get trees onto US 1, we are gonna need the partnership with those property owners, absolutely. And so that's why, with Panal's direction, we're looking at a scope that is going to hopefully foster that relationship so that we can get a consistent and something that benefits both parties and has a larger scheme to it. So in that example, though, we did illustrate, because it's city-owned property, how it could be achieved in that location relatively painlessly, with the existing footprint that's there today of the building.
Well, thank you. Do any of the members have any comments, or are we gonna send in? We've read the report, and you have something, Commissioner?
I have a couple comments. Ms. Seymour, excellent report, very thorough. I love how you broke it down to all the different streets and districts. I agree with everything. And I just want to add one more small piece to the thinking large about Fraser Creek Bridge. I spent the day communicating with some of our different staff. Mr. Mortel even drove me to the location. But one of the things that sticks out for me too is the two dangerous crosswalks are trying to get people across US 1, West Ocean and Joan Jefferson were the highest traffic accidents. And it's something that I've always thought of is, a potential pedestrian walkway under the Fraser Creek Bridge. And I went out today and took a measurement. I can easily get under it at most tides with my boat, but I'm not. Sometimes I might have to actually crouch down.
Right.
But my measurement for my fellow commissioners, it looked like about dead high tide was 5 feet 6 inches, which is too small for the short term to actually do what we have kind of at under the old Roosevelt Bridge, where pedestrian walkway. But the report already touches on raising or bumping up that Fraser Creek Bridge a little bit, which I love. I know it might not happen in any of our times up here, but the first step is to get it on a master report like this.
Or even some of our lives.
That's what I was gonna.
I'm doing this for my kids, Mr. Kemp. The first step is to get it in a report. We have it right down the street under the Roosevelt Bridge. And so you highlight all the benefits of touching on that area. We already own that, I call it the Duffy's boat rental place next door. Again, we don't own on the opposite side under the bridge, but with one or, realistically, a 2-foot height increase of that bridge, you could feasibly have a nice pedestrian walkway from our Shepherd's Park under the Fraser Creek Bridge to get you under US 1. So I'd like that to be added to the report in the section where you touch on raising the bridge.
Yeah, that's an excellent point to bring up, that there could be an opportunity for that. Absolutely.
You know, other than that, I think it's an excellent, very thorough report. There's steps that we could implement hopefully fairly soon. And I'd make a motion to approve unless.
I just-
Are there no
Some other
comments?
commissioners.
I have a couple
Meyer?
questions. I mean, I'm ready to approve. I don't have any substantial issues
So
with
there's a
it.
second then, okay, but with,
The report would direct the city to implement everything in it. Accepting the report would be receiving it and taking it into consideration.
Well, I'd like to approve it. Can we do it by tomorrow? No, I'd like to hear from my other commissioners before I actually make a motion.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. So for me, well, first of all, thank you. Amazing report. I really liked the implementation, which helps me kind of figure out how we can maybe make this a reality. It was a little bit of a blow to see that this was studied in '88 and then in 2002. And I want to make sure that we get implementation and we start putting it in play and start putting it on CIP and really start making it work. To me, though, the idea is that a lot of these potential redevelopment opportunities sort of like, I don't know which one comes first. We have parking challenges, Gesundheit. We have parking challenges and use challenges due to the limited circulation pattern at Confusion Corner. And so I wonder how, I mean, it's touched on a little bit, and I know that's outside the scope of your report, but this would be something that we would need to bring up with MPO, with...
Well, I might be touching on, correct me if I'm not touching on what you're asking. I mean, are you asking a question about when does redevelopment happen, or what are the triggers for which steps? Is that getting along the lines of what you're saying?
Well, I guess the idea is if we're going to try to address the circulation through the district,
Oh.
one of the main challenges to
There.
utilizing the district, developing the district, is the fact
Right.
that it kind of is blocked off from historic downtown, that
Right.
connectivity at Confusion Corner is limited. So if I'm thinking about chunking off different,
Right. Well, the good news is that, when we looked at the US 1 master plan, a lot of those intersections and crossroads and the road itself, you have partners there. So you're not the only players, and there's more coordination involved. It can be a good thing because there's benefit for everyone if they get involved. A lot of these roads, though, are city roads.
Right.
So you guys can hold the keys to some of these improvements. When you look at Confusion Corner, that's one. But these other two where we looked at the recommendation to make them two-way, and I think that they once probably were two-way,
right?
that you don't have to, that's something we could go forward with
Sure.
as a city without, obviously with the investment needed, but it's not something that's on the timeline, and someone else's timeline.
Because I feel like if we were to try to do a left turn, or getting into Confusion Corner and going up through historic downtown right at Confusion Corner from Ocean would be a great benefit, but we're looking at the train,
Right, yes.
so there's a lot of moving parts there.
Right.
So does this plan, in your opinion, I mean, could we survive with not being able to?
Yes,
Okay.
the ones that are, Akron is really the spine, or could be the spine of this area. You have a signaled intersection at Ocean Boulevard, and the challenge today is that if you're coming from the south,
Right.
and you approach, you're going to want to go to Joan Jefferson because it's the first one, obviously, right? But you see that it's stacked up like crazy. You don't want, a train's coming, the train's there or something. You might go to the second intersection today. And then you drive along and you're looking at how you can go north, and you're told no at Akron, and you're told no at California. You're told yes at California, but that feels more like an alley because it's a much smaller little right-of-way.
Right.
Your first opportunity to turn to go north, if you're going to hit Joan Jefferson or get back onto the large circle to the north, is at Albany. And at that point, it's too close to the intersection. Most
Right.
people, I know it, and I go past it, and I'm like, oh no, I missed my turn, And so it's a way of helping, addressing Akron in California is also a way of addressing the activation of just ocean as a way, even if it is just to go north to the Sailfish Circle and not
Okay.
necessarily the Ocean Boulevard Circle. Confusion Corner, it works. It's like a magical dance. We've had some conversations about, well, how could you add it so that you could really enter the circle from there. And I think that there's some dust that needs to settle with the trains
with the train.
possibly before that's maybe revisited. There's some other, pieces of the puzzle that are much easier and to bite off first.
And then, speaking of the train,
Mm-hmm.
you only mentioned it once in implementation. And so I wonder, that we touch on the potential location for a parking structure, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is great. I would never have thought about that. But the old church property in the center of the district, at least I have heard, and feels like that could be a potential spot for Brightline if they were to make a.
It absolutely could be an attractive location for investment from Brightline. And there's some others in the city as well. So the recommendations focus on making this a walkable, attractive place, which aligns with any train interests that would come into the district as well. So making a great place, if a train doesn't come, that's okay, you have a great place.
Right.
And if you make a great place and you desired a train there and it comes, then you win. I mean, either way you win because you're making a great place. So that would be why we may not focus so much on in the report that's because the goal is to just create an extension of downtown and our community, and that would work, I think, for both positioning the city for a train station or not. And either way, you end up
Still
with
being good, even if it doesn't.
beautiful streets and.
And then finally, the improvements, the proposed improvements to the right-of-way plans for each of those different cut sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any, you're making these recommendations, but is there any way or reason why we wouldn't want to try to push forward having the pedestrian sidewalk buffered by the hedges or the trees, and then the parallel parking in the right-of-way, or is it just a matter of?
So let me pull up one of those so that we can walk through it. In this district, context is everything when you
Right.
look at complete streets. And so there are places where, like on the US 1 report, where we don't recommend on-street parking, obviously, and because of the speed and the types of uses and the size of the parcels. And instead, it's more valuable to have a buffered shared use path with green landscaping and shade trees. Here, because this is an extension of downtown, we want to position it as an attractive place for retail and restaurants and offices and visitors to homes and such. You want to have the on-street parking. So your question, though, was about putting the sidewalk, having travel lane, landscape, if you don't mind. walking
Yeah,
me through
or
it again.
like travel lane, parallel parking. I guess the parallel parking acts as a buffer in this
Right,
context.
it does, yes.
But then, if we've got those hedges, if we were going to be replacing or adding a new hedge just to mimic the other side of the street, would it ever be advisable to do that and then the sidewalk, or?
Well, no. Well, you want to have your sidewalk adjacent to your parallel parking, so
Got
that
it.
you can get out of your car. But also, this is an example of a nod to what the grant programs could be asking of redevelopment or applicants who come in, because this is in private property.
Okay.
And in each of these recommendations, we tried to be really clear about what's a right-of-way improvement that's the city's responsibility, or maybe it could be in conjunction with a redevelopment site, but what's at the city's hands and what's in private hands, because there's just a different process that's then required.
Got it.
So for this example, that would be something that could maybe be implemented through a grant program or with redevelopment,
Okay.
the
Thanks.
hedge.
And
I know we have less than 10 minutes for this item, and we have the budget, which has some related items too. And I was going to ask the pleasure of the board if they'd like to have her come back and talk in more detail at another meeting, or do we need to plunge ahead? I know that Mr. McDonald and Mr. Kempenny have comments. If not, let's just move. with
mine are
Mr.
pretty brief because
Mine are
I've
brief,
given
too.
quite a
Okay,
few to
Mr.
Jessica.
Mr. Kempenny.
So I'm just going to say, as a board and as the commission, I think we give too much credence to parking, as if parking is going to make our area better. Parking is ancillary, and I think parking in and of itself has killed a lot of development. And not only development, it's killed keeping smaller homes, because we're so worried about where they're going to park. We say, okay, well then how can we build a small home here because it's a cottage lot? So there's not enough parking. So I think one thing for this district should be a relaxation of parking so that we can have a more urban feel and have restaurants. And at the same time, we are not hurting our Akron, California, those small homes over there, which to me is the backbone of this neighborhood. Second, I think we got to do something about that Baptist church property before too much longer, or then we're going to have someone come in and there's existing zoning on it, there's existing uses, and we may get something that doesn't fit in with this plan. It's just something I think we shouldn't wait on something like that if you people want to do something about this plan and implementation. And then lastly, I don't know how much you incorporated the CRB's comments. I mean, I think there were like 100 of them, Jessica. I don't know how many you incorporated or just disregard it. But I'm going to say that I think the CRB had quite a few comments on the plan, and some of them were very, very good. But again, those two things, the Baptist church property, and also not to get all wound up with parking.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonald.
Suggesting rezoning the
Yeah,
church
it's
property
just-
now.
I'm suggesting we should, whatever we're going to do, we need to do that
It'd be an overlay.
quickly so that we don't end up with something that
Destroys the whole.
destroys the whole plan.
Exactly, okay.
Commissioner McDonald.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. One is, agree with Commissioner Matheson regarding those intersections, those crosswalks across US 1. I've almost got crushed by a car on my bicycle in this crosswalk, crossing with the light. So I totally get that. I also agree with Mr. Kempenny regarding the parking. And we talked a lot about parking over a couple of appointments. And I think actually that whole area should be parking exempt. I think it's hurting business when we know that the parking can be absorbed. Let's see. One of the things I found most interesting about your presentation, and I'll just end it on this because I think most of my questions have been answered by the other commissioners, but is the people feeling unsafe, and I was actually surprised about that, and so I think if that's an issue, lighting is important. And I wonder, just I'm thinking out loud here, is instead of overhead lighting, more like a bollard type lighting to keep the lighting low to minimize light pollution. You know, I love being able to look up and see the night sky,
More
and
for
anything we can
walking.
do to maintain that. So, well, I'm just wondering if that is something that would be, from a technical level, would provide adequate lighting to give people the security that they feel. So that's all I have. An excellent job. I think you did a great job demonstrating how the one-way streets and are directing people away from downtown and away from the area. And I thought that was really, really, really insightful. So thank you. Oh, and one last thing is Confusion Corner. You mentioned, my wife said growing up there was actually 2 more streets that went into it, and it was not a circle. It just was an intersection. So it was really challenging. So just one of those things.
Mayor,
Commissioner Bruner.
when you're going south on the bridge and you want to turn left at Jefferson. Have we done everything we could do there, or could we not have a left-hand turn? I know that would probably be a lot to do.
Right, so generally
For cause-
speaking, you want to, we would not recommend eliminating a direction of travel. You know, the goal is instead to change the context so that drivers behave to their best abilities. You know, I drive too fast and too aggressively when the roads are wide open, just like everybody else does. And so the more you can do to delineate where the travel is and frame the street, you get the better driving behavior. I mean, it's a challenging, you know, coming off of the bridge. You're talking more about the volume, is that correct? Or because there's one of the really interesting things, because there was just recently the FDOT studied the intersection at Joan Jefferson, and they provided a lot of really good detail about how many vehicles are actually on Joan Jefferson. So that's, again, to go back to the direction of travel diagram that we pulled up a minute ago. You know, if we can get a few of those cars to go to the next intersection, not all of them, you know, because again, the problem with Joan Jefferson is that there's a bottleneck of a lot of people trying to get there all at once. So the more opportunities, different opportunities people have to get to the same places, the more you diffuse that traffic congestion. So we would keep it. There are a few recommendations from that FDOT study that we echo in the report. One of them, you know, it seems counterintuitive to a sense, but is to reduce the size of the travel lanes in that sailfish circle, because right now it's a 2-lane circle. It's probably oversized. They illustrate that in 2 of their recommendations, and we supported the idea of reducing that. It makes the choices a driver has to make as they approach that circle a little smoother, so that can help the traffic flow. They also recommended some indicator lighting about when a train is coming. And again, those are, you know, so that you could choose, oh, a train's coming, I'll take the next intersection. That way all the stacking's not happening in the same place, right? So there was a few recommendations in that study that we echo in the report that I think would be useful to look
There are
at.
some improvements for that left turn
Right.
lane in the MPO work plan, I think, that are funded for, is it next year?
Yes.
Thank you, Jessica. It was a great report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
In the RRR too, they have some adjustments to the medians there too, at Joan Jefferson and Ocean to allow for additional stacking too. So that'll also be something that we know is part of the FDOT's plans that could be implemented.
Madam
okay.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept the plan with the suggested changes, including adding language for suggested pedestrian walkway under Fraser Creek Bridge, examining rezoning of the Baptist Church property, as well as Commissioner Meyer's comments of examining Akron and California in higher priorities of implementing
In the low-level lighting, the bollard lighting.
implementing Akron and California, as well as Commissioner McDonald's.
Amended.
These are, no, this is a draft report, but, you know, the low-level lighting, I know
So
I'm straying
may-
off my motion, but
Commissioner, instead of that, can we just leave it to staff to bring back a resolution with with what we said here
suggested
today?
changes.
And then, because otherwise, I don't think we want to accept a report as if we're going to do it. I think we really need to let staff come back with is that true, Mr. Manager, a resolution?
So today, we're here just for comments, just to clarify, I was going to open up and so these are excellent. We will take these comments and incorporate them. I've been taking notes. And then in September, staff is going to come back with a plan for adoption of both master plans so that those can become adopted master plans for the city of Stewart.
So we don't
So
need
no
a
need for
motion
a
to
motion,
accept
just
it all.
thank you for your report.
So, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Second.
Okay.
Thanks. The next item is the tentative CRA budget and CIP for fiscal year 2022. Ms. Gandhi Savdas,
Taking time into consideration, I did have a lot more to present.
did you want Mr. Mortel to read the resolution?
Sure.
Oh, 06/2021.
Resolution 06-2021 CRA, a resolution of the Board of the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Stewart, Florida, adopting the tentative CRA budget of the City of Stewart, Florida for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Are we on a time crunch to adopt this?
Yes, so we're at 5:30 PM, and we have another meeting that's scheduled at this time. It's a pleasure of the board to continue with this meeting and just put back the regular city commission meeting for a few minutes? Or would you like to have this item be rescheduled?
You can't reschedule it because you.
We need it for the
Because
budget.
I know, but
The final
what-
budget
some
will
other
be
time
approved.
after 5:30 or,
So I suggest we take 15 minutes and
Knock it out.
Yeah.
knock it out.
okay, well, I'm going to start, Pinal. I know that you have a presentation, but I just wanted to ask in relationship to what we had with the the triangle project. I see that there's a 2022 in here for a triangle project implementation and a proposed $250,000. So when you're making your presentation, kind of explain that in the project budget summary to me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let me just start from the beginning. So we did have some accomplishments in fiscal year 2021 that I just want to go over.
Can you
really
speak up, please, Pinal? I'm sorry, we
sorry.
can't hear you.
We had some accomplishments in 2021 that I just want to go over quickly. We completed the streetscape project in the Fraser Crescent subdivision. We also completed 100% design for Seminole Streetscape. We're also working on the undergrounding design for Seminole Streetscape project. We received, we applied for a grant for this project, and we were approved in the first step of the process. We'll find out later this year whether we get approved or not. MLK Conceptual Design is underway. We've had a couple of neighborhood meetings where we received feedback. We plan to go back in September to the neighborhood to get final feedback before we move forward with the design, since that's budgeted for fiscal year 2022. Riverside Park neighborhood, this is a two-phase project. The section that you see highlighted in, sorry, let me make this bigger. The section that you see highlighted in blue is expected to go in construction by end of this year. The rest of the neighborhood will have to wait until fiscal year 2024 because we received a LAP grant for that. So we have to wait till we accept the grant. We also completed the kiosk at the old downtown district by the Duffys, and we also installed a new one in the arts and entertainment district. This will help to promote events and activities in this area. High visibility crosswalks and share markings in East Stewart, we completed that. Federal Highway median improvements is also completed. Final inspections are this week. The two master plan that we worked on this fiscal year was Federal Highway Master Plan and Triangle District, which were both presented to you. Guy Davis Community Park improvements, that's underway. We expect to provide the conceptual design and a cost estimate by end of this year. And also we completed the pre-design survey, and we're looking at the data for that. We received $750,000 CDBG grant that will be implemented next fiscal year. Some of Public Works project that were TIF funded is Riverwalk handrail replacement project that's underway, and it's expected to be completed by November. Shepherd Park Improvements Project was completed by Public Works. And again, the reason I mentioned this because these are TIF funded or partially TIF funded. Dixie Highway Sidewalk Project was completed, and also on Southeast Florida Street. So those were some of the accomplishments for fiscal year 2021. For fiscal 2022, we are projected, the TIF revenue is expected to increase by 19%, so we expect a budget of $3.1 million for fiscal year 2022. Some of the new projects that we'll be undertaking in the new fiscal year is the form-based code, and we're going to be partnering with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to help us prepare the form-based code for the Creek District and the East Stewart District. We're looking at doing sidewalk improvements in the Stipman neighborhood. This is surrounded by High School Avenue, Palm Beach Road, MLK, and then Ocean Boulevard. I think this project is important because it'll provide sidewalk connectivity to the elementary school and the middle school. And there's some grant opportunities for that. One of the projects that I was considering for the Triangle District Master Plan before I heard the comments from the board is to look at the improvements for the Dixie Highway because that would be the continuous of the enhancements that already was started by Azul. So we are working with, I will be coordinating with Brightline and MPO if this project is to move forward. I budgeted $250,000 in the budget for the design, and I have a meeting with Lucido and Associates this week to work on the scope based on the direction I get from the board today. And we're in the pre-design phase, like I said, for data collection and survey for the Guy Davis Park. We will bring forward the conceptual design by end of this year. For Federal Highway, you'll notice that I budgeted $250,000 for this. So we're going to be coordinating with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to develop a tree program for Federal Highway. And then the large budget for this fiscal year is also for the MLK Complete Street Design, which I budgeted $450,000. We need the design order to apply for grants, so I think that'll help us start looking for different grant opportunities for this project. And here's a map showing, that we're an active CRA here. All the projects that we're working on, we're doing land acquisition, infrastructure improvements, gateway improvements, master planning, public park improvements, neighborhood enhancements, complete street projects, and form-based code. So, we're kind of spread out, and we're looking at projects in all the different areas, and it's not just focused in downtown. And I think this map kind of illustrates that. So today I'm looking for approval of resolution number 06-2020, adopting the tentative CRA budget for fiscal year 2022.
Don't you mean 2021?
No, this would be for 2022.
2022.
Fiscal year 2022.
Okay, any questions by the board? Any
Oh,
motions?
resolution number 06, yes, sorry about that. yes.
Resolution 06-2021 is,
21, correct.
okay, what, is that the confusion that we're asking
Yes.
about?
Yes, sorry about that.
It's for 2022 budget, fiscal year, but
Right.
resolution
Okay.
should be 21.
Okay, Ms. Bruner?
I just wanted to say you've done, Pinella, a great job in what we've accomplished in the last year and in the next year. Really proud of our little city, our city, our great city. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comments or any motions?
Madam Mayor, I'll
motion.
move approval.
Move approval by Commissioner Meyer.
I'll second for discussion.
Second for discussion by Board Member Campenny. Sir,
I
what
think
is your-
Board Member Matheson wants to say something.
Okay,
Just mentioning, from what I gathered on direction from hearing the Triangle District, I think we all had comments of what we enjoyed about it and stuff to improve it. But if the ball is already rolling, in that connection that's showing on the screen now, I would encourage that to keep moving. My sense from all the comments was that we want to see all the improvements happen. So, you know.
I think that'd be a good improvement.
Yeah. I think that's.
Thank you. Commissioner Meyer?
Yeah, I agree with you, Vice Mayor. It's a critical safety issue. I mean, I see people parallel parking and walking down in the roadway to get to downtown. I think that's a good priority, and if, as Pinnell has it, budgeted $250,000 this next year for design. Remember, this is just approving the 2022. It's good to see out to year 5, but I'm happy with the spread here. I do have just a question, though. I see, looking out into the future, we have 2 different line items, one for debt financing and one for SRF loans. And I'm not sure that the TIF fund for the funding sources is accurate, just based on the numbers that I was looking at before. Not a question for necessarily for right now, but we're looking at doing SRF loans and separate bonds for these projects
For the Guy Davis Park project?
for the whole CIP.
What's the SRF
Oh, no,
for?
those are, sorry, that's not on here, but the CIP, the ones that are highlighted are CRA projects, and those are all budgeted for in fiscal year 2022. So those are not.
That's the complete CIP that's
That's
in
the
their thing. It's
complete
not
CIP,
just
yeah.
CRA.
Never mind.
So the SRF loan is for what?
Water.
Yeah,
Water.
that's-
I was going to say that was an awfully large CRA.
Yeah, no, just the highlighted.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I have a comment, and I don't expect this board to do anything, but I think the commission needs to address it. 3 years ago, you made a deal with Main Street to cut them off after 3 years. It has now been 3 years, and you're still funding them to the same level you did 3 years ago. Now, if you're going to continue funding them that level, that's great. But the board, the commission made a statement when they rented to them Flagler Place that after 3 years, it would end their subsidy. If you're changing your mind, then that needs to be a discussion item by this commission and to go forward, because that's not the deal that was intended. So on that, we could vote on it if you want, or vote on the
No, we have an item up for a vote.
2022 is the third year.
Yes,
2022.
right.
This is the third year, but it was not supposed to be at $70,000 per year. It was supposed to be reduced each and every year, and then the 4th year was supposed to be 0.
Okay, thank you for your comment. We have an item up for vote. Oh, it involves money, I guess, so
Bit of money.
a little bit of money. Susie, are you ready with us?
Yes. Vice Chairperson Matheson?
Yes.
Board Member Brunner?
Yes.
Board Member Meyer?
Yes.
Board Member McDonald?
Yes.
Chairperson Clark?
Yes,
And Board Member Campenny?
Yes.
thank you. So city manager, you'll get back with us on those things. And if you could include the gateway issue, I didn't really see that in your report, but I know that it's there because the triangle area is a big gateway, of course, the entire area. Any other comments, or we can adjourn?
Yes.
We'll adjourn and we'll give ourselves 5 minutes set up.
Yes.
And then we'll start back our regular meeting, which should have started at 5:30. Thank you.